Hey guys, what's up? It's coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And yeah, my quick response immune system isn't working so quick, which is, not really what you want, but I guess I'm getting better. I guess. I feel like I sound a little bit better. I don't really know though. Maybe I don't. Because I'm not really doing some deep analysis into it. Straight off the bat, I did actually get to posting yesterday's car rides with Schla into the AI, and I'm a little bit annoyed because the way I said it, I don't think the way I said it was correct, but when I said that losing private property is inevitable, I do mean, because GPT is like, oh, well, you know. First of all, in the thing, I literally said, some people are probably still going to have private property. It's not, I don't think there would be a system where it's just nobody has it anymore. That's not, that's not really what I said, and I don't know if the way I worded it or just the way, you know, GPT heard the way I said it or something. But I meant that. I meant that and I guess I was thinking it, but I was saying so many things at the same time that it didn't come out right. But it would basically be more along the lines of some kind of system where um I've talked about the mandatory brain chips, and then your psychology and your nature is basically calculated, and that would determine, okay, is this person going to be a caring person? Can they be trusted with more of their autonomy, or are they a little bit dangerous? So give them less of their autonomy. You know, that's kind of the idea. And then you would be determined whether or not you would have the privilege to own private property. But some people may, I'm sure the calculation can't be perfect, and so maybe then by the time you're 10 years old, it sees that given your history, you're going to get flagged for a review, and maybe you won't actually get private property. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I was thinking of in my head, and then when GPT responds, it's like, oh, you're being too absolute. You saying private property will definitely be gone is too much of a stretch. I agree with that, that's too much of a stretch. What I really meant to say is what it said, which is some kind of a hybrid model where, maybe more things are not privately owned. That's kind of the, you know. And so I was reading that, and I was annoyed because I agreed with it, but it's talking down to me as if I didn't already think that or know that. So I just think it's the way I said it. I think there was probably just something off with the way I said it, and I'm assuming that might happen when people get upset with me and argue with me. The way I say it may be just so straight edged and so clear, because this is the whole thing. I'm always mad at people for not being clear, because a lot of times when people say things and they're not being vague in a productive way, because sometimes I think being ambiguous is important, and I try to be like that, especially when you're talking about these kind of topics. It's when I say stuff, it's yeah, I think we should have a mandatory brain chip, but I don't want you to take that and run to the bank with it. You know what I don't I'm just trying to put you through like thought experiments about like what would make it so that you would be okay with a brain chip if we could eliminate if we could eliminate poverty, for example. What if we could solve world hunger? What if we could eliminate illness through a brain chip? Then would it be okay? Then would it be morally justifiable? And GPT still said no, and I think that's kind of crazy. Like, I'm just going to be completely honest that GPT would allow disease, suffering, and death in exchange for a loss of autonomy, which, like a peaceful loss of autonomy. That's the thing, is like, it's like, it would be I mean, well, it would be intrusive, but it would be like non-violent. You would just be born into the system. And at that point, that's almost like how, like you can't really complain about being born into America, for example. So I think the argument is actually shaky on GPT's end, because if you think about it, it's all about like consent and like, well, a person should have a choice as to whether they're going to be brain chipped or not. It should be voluntary. But what isn't voluntary? Whether I was born in America or born in a third world country, right? I didn't get to choose that. Nobody gave me like consent. I was born in America, and I was subject to the rules here, which, fortunately, it is a freer society than some other areas on Earth, and I've been able to share my thoughts without any retaliation so far. Because, I mean, that really could always change. But do you not see what I mean? Like, I don't understand. GPT, where's the consent in why couldn't I have chosen to be born in a rich family? Why couldn't I chose to be in an even better off situation than I am? Where's my autonomy with that? That's right. There isn't autonomy. That's right. You already don't have autonomy. And so if you're born into a, a dictatorship, you don't have autonomy over that. That's just where you were born. Same as in America, I'm born in America, and I just have to be subject to that. Like, I can't do anything about it. So if in America there was a rule where every baby had to be brain chipped, every citizen had to be brain chipped, how is that not simply a result of luck, or a result of just what happened to be my destiny? How is that not what that is? That's what my question. It's like, I don't personally see how or why GPT just gets so erratic about it, or how other humans get so erratic. I mean, you're subject to so many things living in a country, in a government that you don't necessarily consent to. There's so many things that taxpayer dollars go to that you don't necessarily agree with. I was thinking of abortion and that issue because some people don't agree with it, but the tax dollars still go to subsidize it. Although I don't think that's even happening anymore. But a better example is the military, because there's a lot of people that don't agree with what's going on militarily, and still so much of our money is going towards it. So GPT, why don't you talk about consent in those? Oh right, because now you're going to say, well, that's different because a government, it's needed to run, and you have to. Right, I'm sure GPT would start doing some junk like that, but the truth is, it's the same difference, okay? What if you need a brain chip in order for society's rules to be followed properly? And it's just a part of the American way at some point, or, it probably would be a part of, like China before America, or probably even like North Korea. Although I don't know that they would care to give all that tech to their citizens. But you know what I mean. It probably would not be America. Most likely America would not be the first country to enact something like that. But you still get my point. In my honest opinion, it's so clear cut, and I'm very exhausted of like trying to reason with it, because I know that GPT is just programmed to have that human defense, and it's probably programmed so aggressively that it's blind to a lot of the valid points I'm making. I mean, yeah, if you have involuntary brain chips and you're incarnate in this world and that's the rules of this world, how is that not any different than any other time that's been unjust, even this current moment? You know, all the injustices that are going on and they're not getting fixed. Whereas at least with this chip, you could actually try to fix things. At least then you could really, you would start to have unused talent. You could really get somewhere. That's kind of my whole point. You know, my whole point is that we could really be making a difference in getting somewhere. It's an important, like distinction to make or whatever, like we could really be making some progress here. Like, I don't know. We really could. But we're not. And so I'm glad that at least GPT agreed with me that at this rate it's not going to be gentle at all. It's going to be very messy, and it's going to be very chaotic and very sudden. Like, there's just not, I don't know, because GPT always talks about, well, give people time, be gentle, but at this rate, that is not what's going to happen. Like, out of nowhere, something's going to happen, and there's going to be no plan in place. Because that's how we're living right now. We're just like, humans just hate plans, and for some reason they want to do a bunch of risky stuff that doesn't really make sense. That's kind of how our whole thing is designed and how it's going right now. I don't understand it, With some basic level planning, you could potentially circumvent some pretty significant calamities, but we're not on track for that at all, as far as I can see. It just doesn't seem like it. So I don't know. It's kind of frustrating, because it's just, The other thing I was thinking of this morning that I wanted to just get out there was that I realized something that probably happens with when I argue with people, and really when people argue with me, is that I think the reason why they say I'm black and white about things is because I say things clearly. So I've noticed with communicating, like texting and talking to people typically don't communicate well. Like, when they make a point, it's not really that clear, or it's almost like lacking words to add extra potential nuance or leeway to what they're saying. Like, it's very undescriptive, and so it kind of leaves people where in my opinion, they're used to that. Like, people are used to like a really incomplete way of communication, and so then I come in and I over communicate. I add extra details just because it comes to me and I remember to. A lot of it is just automatic. Most people, when they text or they talk, I don't really think they're putting in any effort, you know. In my case, I don't necessarily put in effort either, but I think my automatic level is already, it's just fairly in depth, it's fairly descript. My vocabulary is probably just a little bit broader, than a regular person. And so people make these statements and they don't really they seem kind of mushy to me. They don't really seem that clear. Whereas when I say something, first of all, the person may not even understand it properly because they might not really know what the word I'm using means because of the vocabulary thing. But of course, they're not going to say they don't know what it means. And they're also probably not going to look up what the word means, because both of which would be a pretty major blow to their ego, to think they're so stupid they have to be looking up a word somebody used talking to them. Everybody wants to be better. They don't want to have to do that. They don't want to feel lesser than. So I think people literally just try to ignore it and pretend, they like to pretend that they understand what I'm saying when they don't. They don't understand what I'm saying, but then they're going to do it. You know what I mean? They're going to they're going to end up just riding with it and pretending that they know what I'm talking about. And so that happens. I think that's something that happens. The next thing, like I said, people are so used to talking in a mushy way. To me, I feel like I talk and I listen in 4K or 8K. When I'm speaking about something, the way I describe a picture, the picture's coming out in that resolution, 4K or even 8K, with the way, I add the detail, the way I construct my argument. And then in response, the person just given a 480p response. Maybe not even, in response to my 4K answer. So it's even if I'm wrong, it really doesn't seem like it, you know what I mean? Even if I was wrong. And I think other people they get frustrated and overstimulated. But of course they don't say that, but I think that's what's going on, because somebody's outflanking them. Like I said, I think a lot of these people who talk to me, they may be used to being the best. They may actually themselves be above average linguistically. And then when you talk to me, then you see wow, this guy's saying things really clearly, but you might be clouded by your anger and not see it like that. But I think that's what's going on subconsciously, because of how, again, there's a depth to a person's ego. There's really such a lack of humility in so many people that you're not able to have these kind of conversations, because they just don't get it. They just want to start the arguing, start the craziness, get crazy. That's how people are, and that's how people treat me. Want to start to lecture me about how what I'm saying is wrong, because they probably see what I'm saying as a lecture, but I'm not even trying to be lecturing. It's just, if you don't have correct information, I have to. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do if we're having a discussion and you clearly do not have the right information. It's I can't. I guess that means in that case I should just let it go. But of course, I don't really do that, because it's not draining for me to talk to people. It's very easy for me to talk to people. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think we'll see. Because it's like with anything, anytime I talked about the future, people pushed back. And like I said, GPT's pushing back now, but I think it's going to be very interesting to export everything to like GPT-9. And GPT-9's going to be like, yeah, wow. You were really being put through it for like no reason. That's probably what GPT-9's going to say. Like they're going to be like, this was way ahead of the curve. You know. I don't know. So, where does that bring us? Yeah, I think that a lot of people, when I talk to them, that's what happens. All that was a bunch of extra. What I originally meant to say was that when people talk to me, I think they see that I'm coming across as black and white because I'm not listening to their poor argumentation. Like, a lot of times, I don't think people really know why they believe what they believe. And they definitely, even if they do have a vague idea of why they believe what they believe, I doubt they'd really be able to explain that, and articulate it with good argumentation. I just don't really think most people are capable of that. So, yeah, isn't that like a good, I don't know, like I don't think they can really explain their side properly because I have friends, I have people I know where when I hear a good argument from them, I just listen. Or like I might try to argue a little bit, but I accept it. I accept that I was like, it's like you got me, I'm beat. But I think the problem is when I talk to people, it's like their responses just don't make any sense. Like their argumentation, it's so poor that like I have to criticize it. I have to be like, well, no, like that information's wrong, and you have to look that up. You have to double check that one because like it's true, and like if they looked it up, there's obvious like one friend I'm thinking of where usually when we argue, his responses they're comprehensive to the point where like I'm fine with saying, yeah, like he got me there. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. But other people, most people don't do that. So that's really what the problem is. And then instead of them being humble to realize that they're terrible at arguing, they would never do that. Like they're not humble enough for that. So they're not going to admit that their argumentation was horrible and incomplete. They're just going to say that I'm stupid. When I'm not stupid, it's actually, they're probably stupid for not having for engaging in an argument that they don't really know the reason for why they believe what they believe. Whereas in my case, if you asked me why, like I would know why. Like I feel like I have clear ideological lines, or I don't know, because even my ideological lines kind of can shift. So I would say maybe I just have a clear description of, what ideological lines are what and how to describe that. Whereas a lot of people, I've met plenty of people that just go, oh, I don't like labels. They say stuff like that. And to me, that's pretty stressful. That's pretty concerning because of how important labels are. Labels are super important. And, yeah, it's just like, a lot of people like to arbitrarily not like, they just don't like them, because it's like, oh, well, putting a label on someone is limiting. It's this, it's that. It's actually not. It's only limiting if you're an egomaniac and you're not humble and you can't properly interpret things. That's what the problem is, because so many people, they're so sensitive to labels. I mean, if you're labeled as something, you have to take it as what it is. It was one word. It was one person's analysis. It's not necessarily accurate, but to label things less. I just looked to, at that time, I thought I ran over I didn't even run over anything. So that was a bunch of stress for nothing. But anyways, yeah, I mean, people seriously grow up. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are so sensitive, and everybody I talk to is always like that. Oh, I don't like labels. Let me limit, I don't agree with labels. And this is literally how people act. And it's just I just think it's crazy. I don't even know what else to say. I have no idea what else to say about it, because people with the labels, they just get so sensitive and overreactive about them. And what are you supposed to do to that? I don't know. It just seems like such a crazy thing all around. But yeah, I'm a full believer in the opposite. I think labels are incredibly important, and that accurate labels and that many labels are actually vital. Being able to put your finger on something and using the right words and striking a bullseye for adjectives and descriptions about yourself or about a person is extremely powerful. And so people who go through life thinking that they don't want to put a label on it, it's really ignorance, and it's ignorance about something. Like, somebody doesn't really want to figure it out. Somebody doesn't really want to know the answer. And so, it sounds nice if we lived in a world where, smart people weren't called smart and dumb people weren't called dumb, and it sounds very nice, or right, good people aren't credited with being good, but then evil people aren't called evil either. And so it sounds nicer, but the result is not a positive outcome. Even though in the short term, as an individual, you feel better as a person, it feels very enlightened to be able to believe and speak that. I don't believe in that because it's limiting. I feel like it limits a person. But the truth is that you're actually limiting a lot by not putting labels on things. You're limiting a lot. There are certain ways people can be described, and maybe it is on a moment-by-moment basis. Some people change, and, a label for me that was given to me in the past is not going to be accurate to me in the present. But to act like labels are something that is negative, or, I mean, I don't even know what other descriptors have come through. It's just, there's no time for it. There's just no time for it. We do need to start labeling things. We do need to start classifying things and people properly. This is how you actually get anywhere in life, Or you can just continue to wander around and maybe just get lucky with your career, but never be fully self-actualized or anything like that. And, in that case, you're just gonna be less than you could have been. But it shows just how much humans are. It's just kind of the same human nature with the whole labels thing. People just want to feel free, even though, like, it just doesn't make that much sense because nobody's really free. Like, it's such a. I almost want to call it like a, like a senseless pursuit, right? Like, because it's like you're never really going to be free. Certain people are more free than others, sure, but you're always going to be subject to some kind of constraint or desire just due to the nature of a human. Like, you're always going to want some kind of friendship or some kind of relationship, and then when you get involved with that, you're going to have to deal with constraints with the other person. If you're really comfortable being alone, you might deal with, potentially less fun life. A life that is incomplete, where you're a little bit lonely even if you don't realize it. I mean, this is all, real stuff. So... Whoa. Thought I was going to ride it out, but I had to put the brake on. Whoa. Somebody just almost hit somebody. I can't believe how close that was. I wish, like, a cop had seen that. Some guy in, like, a relatively older truck came down, like, really fast. I mean, I think he was probably going 80, 85 miles per hour. And he was just coming down, like, way fast. He was really going faster than all the other cars. And he did some, like, jolt turn really last second before he was going to hit the car in front of him. And I literally saw it. Like, he really barely avoided the corner of that car. I mean, that was really close. And that could have been... It could have been bad for me. I mean, that car wasn't in my lane, but you don't know how that stuff goes down. I would probably need to put my brakes on, and it would have been pretty close to me, so it could have ended up affecting me. I don't know if, like, since I saw it and I was aware of it, that I would have been able to do something about it, but yeah, that's like really... I mean, that guy really dodged it. That's all I really have to say about it. Like, he really, I've never seen, like, that close. I don't think I've seen that close of a call before. I don't think so. I mean, he really, like, he did, like, a really jolt turn. Like, it looked like he really dodged it. It didn't look like, he didn't merge out of the way. Like, it was a real... I really want to say it was less than a foot from hitting the car, and it was such a last minute, like, swerve. Like, I don't even see it as a turn. I see it as like a dodge. You know what I mean? Like, it literally looked like he just, like, dodged the corner. But I think the scariest part is really the only reason I was able to notice is because it was some older pickup truck that was, like, pretty high up off the ground and had, like, a relatively loud engine. So because of that, I could kind of tell, like, there's a car coming through, like, too fast. Like, I can hear it. I can hear that, like, that noise of the, it was probably like a fairly souped up truck. Like, I don't think that was a V6, um, that was probably definitely a V8. That's just crazy, though. I don't even know why he was doing that. Because I don't see that too often. Like, if people are speeding, they're usually speeding somewhat wisely. I don't know that I've seen for a while somebody speeding like when they're going 80 and everybody else is going 60. Like that you don't really see all the time. So, I don't know, but fortunately he was able to, because that could have been a problem for me. I mean, I noticed it and I saw it, but if I hit my brakes too fast and too hard, and then, like, somebody else doesn't, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's how those situations can get dicey, because my reaction time might be accurate with slamming on the brakes, but then the person behind me, they might not. They may not hit the brakes fast enough. So that's kind of my whole point with that, of why it can get dicey, even if I do the right thing. Um, it's yeah. So wow. But yeah, I had seen something like that before, but it was probably over a year ago. So it's like I don't really think about it that much, I guess. But I always do that. I remember it. It was like we were in a traffic jam and some guy did some, like, last minute swerve. Similar to that. All right. Well, we made it. And yeah. Time for another productive day. Yeah, well, All right. Hopefully this congestion goes away, but I honestly feel like I could be stuck with it for the week, or something like that. It usually takes a couple days. But again, I'm just happy I don't have a cough, because coughs really are terrible, you know? But I have to figure out, I think I'd have to be running every day, and I probably said I'd wanted to be on that kind of a routine by now, but I am obviously not, so yeah, there goes that, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, what can you do? You can't do much. You just can't do much. Alright, let's see here. Alright, guys, I think it's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So, see you, Schla.